So, my name is Sam Eastis, and I work in the Office of International Education at Wichita State University. And I'm joined with some of my colleagues from the Office of International Education. I have with me Phi Tai, Tanya Baldwin, Jessa Roberts, and Jean Dijon. And then I also have Heather Stafford, who is joining us from Student Health Services. So I'm going to go ahead and let her talk a little bit about what's going on at Wichita State. And then we'll just kick off the meeting. So Heather, thanks so much for being able to join us. We appreciate it.
Hello, everybody. My name is Heather Stafford. I am the Associate Director at Student Health Services. And welcome and thanks for listening in today. We are here to help you along with your entrance into Wichita State University next semester. And I'm here specifically to talk about the safety with COVID and any other questions you might have in relation to health. The university is protecting students very well, I believe. There's a mandate in our city of Wichita to wear masks, and we also encourage everyone to wear masks on the university campuses. And that could be anything from a surgical mask that maybe you have been able to get, or any sort of other face coverings that is very protective. So that's one way that we protect you here on campus. Some other ways is that a lot of the classes are either hybrid or online. And when it's hybrid, it usually means they're separating the classes where some people might go one day and other students might go another day, and that's to make sure that social distancing is in effect and that people are 6 feet apart in a classroom. Maybe every 2 or 3 chairs are only being occupied at the time during that class. And it's to really encourage the safety of everybody when it comes to the classroom activities. The other thing that we are doing is we are trying to create a situation where when students leave for a holiday, that everybody goes at one time and everybody's off campus, and then we all come back together, but we don't have these short little vacations. So next spring, there won't be a spring break, but that's more for everybody's safety so that people aren't leaving, traveling, and then coming back onto campus and potentially putting everybody at risk with COVID. I think it's important to know that the situation here in the United States is probably not at its best when it comes to COVID. As you can see by this graph that we have put up, the United States is in an upward trajectory with cases. And even though that the United States as a whole is going up, I think that the Wichita State University campus is doing its best to make sure that we are protecting everybody here. The United States in general, though, hasn't been the best at making sure we have put in different requirements and health, just different things just to make it safe for everybody. Here, specifically in Wichita, Kansas, and that's in what we call Sedgwick County. The county does a lot of the mandates here for this particular area. Here in Sedgwick County, we're up to a 25% positivity rate. And yes, that graph looks scary, but it's not just Kansas, it's everywhere in the United States right now. Traditionally, here in the United States, November through March is our typical flu season. So that's when influenza typically becomes its most prominent. And as opposed to other countries across the world where it might be in different time zones, and like in Australia, their flu season is typically late spring, early summer, as opposed to us, which is right now. And so I think that's really what we're seeing right now is the combination of different symptoms of allergies, influenza, and potentially COVID symptoms that are coming into play. We want to make sure that you understand that everybody has your health in their best interest. It's just that right now it's just kind of out of control in the United States. I'm not sure how to make this more comforting for you, but I want you to know that the university takes your health very seriously. I think when it comes to travel and when you are ready to depart your country and come to the United States, very, very important to pay attention to a link from the Kansas Department of Health and Education. And I believe Phi has put that link up onto one of these slides so that you are aware of where to go to look to see what is going on in the state of Kansas at the time when you're ready to come to the United States. This link will tell you some of the different travel guidelines that are in place. What the Kansas Department of Health has done is kind of put in some quarantine guidelines for people coming from specific areas, either in the United States or internationally. And what that means is if your country or the state that you're currently in are on that list by the state of Kansas Health Department, then they will expect you to do a 14-day quarantine when you arrive here to Wichita. If you're going to be living off campus, that may not be such a big deal to you. You're going to get your own apartment. You can do your own quarantine in your apartment. A quarantine is when you are in your own space, in your apartment, in your own room. You are not going anywhere else in the city of Kansas. You're not going shopping. You're not going out to get food. You're not coming to campus. It's a quarantine. And that is to protect everybody's safety. And usually when either a state or a country ends up on the list for the Kansas Health Department, then that usually means that that country or state has a higher positivity rate than we do right now. And we find that a little more riskier. So if you're going to be living on campus, that's a different situation. And if you're coming from a state or a country that's listed on this Kansas Department of Health Education site, I would encourage you to get into contact with housing and then to see what you need to do to be safe when you arrive. And they are accessible either through International Education can help you, get in contact with them, or even myself can help you get in contact with them. So I think what the last question I want to make sure I reference is that the health insurance that's offered by the university, and that is United Healthcare Student Resources. And this is a health insurance that students are able to purchase. Health insurance is required by all international students. And I believe that Phi can put up a link so you can see that information about health insurance. That specific health insurance does cover COVID expenses if you have symptoms. So if you are sick and we test you for COVID and you get treated for COVID, or if, let's say, heaven forbid, you had to go to a hospital, expenses that are related to a COVID-like illness are covered by the United Healthcare Student Resources Insurance. However, if you decide, I think I just want to get tested when I get to the United States just to make sure, but I don't have any symptoms and I'm fine, but I just want to know, that kind of situation, your insurance will not cover those expenses. So you have to have symptoms for health insurance here in the United States to cover COVID symptoms. I think I might have answered all the questions. Is there any questions from anybody at this time? Bye, Sam. No?
I don't believe we have questions at this time, but for any students who do have questions, again, you can send those to the chat and we'll be able to address those at the end, because I know questions will come kind of throughout the meeting. So if you don't have any right now and they come later, feel free to send those to the chat.
A couple questions before Heather leaves that have just come in that she would better be suited to answer. And I can read those off, Heather, for you if you don't mind.
Yep, go ahead.
So someone is asking so for example, if you were to visit Atlanta as your first stop and you want to complete your 14-day quarantine there, and then they travel to Wichita by road, would they need to quarantine themselves again?
No, if it's in the process of a travel. So let's say, here's a better example. Let's say you fly into Dallas, Texas, and Texas is not on the list, and you drive from Dallas, Texas to Wichita, there's no quarantine necessary just because you're traveling by road from Dallas, Texas to Wichita. However, if you're coming from a country that, let's say, is on this list for Kansas Department of Health and Education, you could fly into Dallas, complete your 14-day quarantine there, and then drive to Wichita. That is acceptable. If you're just traveling through a state because it's on your way from wherever you're at to come to Wichita, but no other place have you been in has been on the list of states or countries, you still would not have to quarantine because you're just traveling through that state. Does that answer the question?
I think so.
Okay.
And then we're only going to do 2 more questions. So if any more come in, we'll probably just send those questions to you later to answer.
Okay, yeah. If anybody wants to email me directly, my email is Heather, HEATHER, .Stafford, STAFFORD, @wichita.edu. And if you email the International Education Office, they can always forward your questions to me and we can help you at that time.
Great. So these 2 questions should be pretty short. Just someone wants to know how long will it take for the student medical insurance to become active after they arrive? Okay.
So the student medical insurance, if you purchase it when you arrive in January, it's effective as of January 1st. You need to pay attention to any of the rules that have to do with insurance. And if you decide to purchase your own insurance, that is not the school insurance, there is a waiver process. It's kind of a complicated situation, but on our YouTube page, which is WSU Student Health Services, there's many videos that have to do with insurance and any questions you might have with the waiver process. But yes, when you purchase insurance in January for the upcoming semester, that insurance runs from January 1st, 2021 to May 31st, 2021. And you can purchase it in different increments, however you want to. And that is something that if you have questions about, you could also email me.
Yeah, and then the last one that we are going to ask you, Heather, is are there any medical exams that our students need to take before traveling to the US?
So before traveling, no, there is not. If you're going to be living on-campus housing, so in the residence halls, there is a meningitis vaccination that is required to live there. And you can get that in your home country. You just need to make sure that is the meningitis ACYW type. Those are usually your Menveo or Menactras. There's another one in a lot of different countries, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But if you have questions, you can ask me to see. And that is the only, any vaccinations that you happen to get is the only thing that we can accept here from your country. When you arrive to Wichita, Kansas, then when you go through the check-in system through the Office of International Education, then you will eventually come to Student Health Services and we will do tuberculosis screening and testing. That has to happen when you arrive. You cannot do that in your home country. That has to happen when you come to Wichita. We will ask you a series of questions, and that is for all new students. That is not specifically directed to international students. All new students have to do a tuberculosis screening, but for international students, for a lot of you coming from different high-risk countries, there is also testing involved. And like I said, that has to happen once you get to Wichita and have checked in with the International Education Office.
Thank you so much, Heather. Okay, so now we will begin talking about spring classes. So there are 2 modes of delivery for classes in spring 2021. This is essentially the same as it was in fall 2020. So the classes will be either fully online or in a hybrid format. Online courses do not involve any in-person instruction. Lectures are pre-recorded and viewed at a student's own convenience, and class interaction is primarily through online discussion boards, which allows students and professors to interact with each other. Online courses can be taken from your home country. This is an option for students who are not able to physically come to Wichita for the spring 2021 semester. But students who take all online courses from their home country are not required to take a certain number of courses. Students should expect about 3 hours of class time per week and additional time to complete assignments or quizzes and study for exams. Now, hybrid courses are also online, but a lot of them include limited in-person instruction, which was mentioned by Heather briefly when she talked about what we're doing here at Wichita State. For this reason, many hybrid courses cannot be taken from your home country. There are some hybrid courses that you would be able to take from your home country if there is no physical attendance requirement. Undergraduate students who study inside the US are required to take a minimum number of courses equivalent to 12 credit hours, and most courses are worth 3 credit hours. This means that students in the US taking classes will take 4 classes, assuming all of their courses are worth 3 credit hours. This is the minimum number of credit hours a student must take to maintain their visa status in the US. There are 2 different types of hybrid courses. One is synchronous and the other is asynchronous. So we'll talk about synchronous courses first. Synchronous courses require students to meet at a specific time. For example, a class might meet at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Synchronous courses have a mixture of online and in-person elements. A professor might deliver all of their lectures in an online format, but require in-person exams. Lectures might be streamed in real time though, which would require students to be present at a specific time, or have live chats that require student participation. Synchronous courses may not provide recordings of the lectures after they take place, so it is important to be on time and fully present for the class. And the next type, asynchronous. Asynchronous courses do not meet at set times each week. Lectures are pre-recorded and most class interaction will take place through online discussion boards. Some classes may even combine synchronous and asynchronous elements. The method of delivery is at the discretion of each professor.
Okay, thank you, Jessa. The next, we're going to talk about your money matters. But before that, we would like to run a poll to know if you are doing, well, unfortunately, for some reason, the poll cannot run for some reason. So we'll just skip the poll in that case. Then we will go ahead and start talking about your tuition and fees. So this chart and table gives you some details about how much you want to prepare for. Oh, the poll is actually running. Can you all see the poll now? Okay, so are you able to vote for the poll? Okay. For some reason, well, I on one of my devices, I cannot see that. So Sam, will you just kind of give a summary of the poll result and before you end it?
Yes, so it looks like it may have already ended. I'm not sure, but so just to make sure everyone saw it, the question was, what program will you attend at Wichita State in spring 2021? Your options were intensive English, undergraduate program, and a graduate program. It looks like of those who attended, most students, we have about 66% who are going to be attending graduate programs. We have quite a few undergraduate students as well, with about 32%. And then we have some, an intensive English student or two who will be joining us as well. So
cool, that helps because that affects what we're going to talk at this point. We're talking about tuition and fees. If on this table, you can see if you are undergraduate students and you want to come here and take hybrid classes, and you are expecting about $550 per credit hour. But if you are staying home, and you will see that there's the online class, it's $645 per credit hour. And if you have your Global Select Scholarship, you will have a discount and the tuition fee will be lower. So you can see for undergraduate students, if you are taking a hybrid without your scholarship, it's about $548. With your Global Select Scholarship, your credit hour per credit hour tuition and fees will be $350. But then for online class without Global Select Scholarship, it's $645 per credit hour. And if you have Global Select, it will be $447 per credit hour. And on top of these, Jessa mentioned earlier that usually each class takes about 3 credit hours. And for different colleges, they have college fees for you to use their facilities or any of those classes. They will add anywhere between $15 to $50 per credit hour. For example, engineering students at the College of Engineering, each credit hour is $50, and business, they charge $15. And then for student fees, other than we just mentioned tuition fees, college fees, there's also student fees. So no matter you are outside of the US or if you're inside of the US, you will be charged these fees. If you are taking if you're taking 9 credit hours or more, then your student fee per semester will be $679. And if you're taking 6 to 8 credit hours, then you will be charged $453 for this semester. And if you're taking less than 6 credit hours, then your student fee for a semester will be $226. Now here is an example or for undergraduate students that gives you a better idea for the whole semester. Because if you just look at one credit hour, it may not be enough for you to plan or to budget your study. Now, with this chart, it gives you better idea. If you are, remember, if you are coming as an undergraduate student, if you are coming to the US, you are required to take a minimum of 12 credit hours. So your cost will be anywhere between $7,255 to $7,855, depending on what college you are in. But if you have your scholarship, then it will be lower, and it's about $4,800 to $5,400. And so with online, it will be anywhere between $8,400 to $9,000. And if you are taking online with Global Select 12 credit hours, your cost will be around 6,000 to, this must be a typo. Oh, that's correct, 6,000 to 6,600. But if you decide to take these classes from home, you are not required. You're not required to take 12 credit hours. So these are examples of 3 credit hours cost estimate and 6 credit hours cost estimate. Now, for graduate students, your minimum requirement is 9 credit hours if you're coming here to take the classes. So I would say the highest, if you don't have your Global Select scholarship, then your cost estimate will be anywhere between $7,500 to $8,000. But if you decide to stay home and so taking online, then your cost can be for 3 credit hours, $2,800, or it can be with your scholarship, it will be around $2,000. Or if you still want to take full load, 9 credit hours from home, that is also possible. If you're taking online with Global Select scholarship, so your cost estimate would be around $5,700 to $6,200. So these are some examples for you to take reference to. Then for spring schedule, this is very important to help you plan. If you are afraid of, or if you're concerned of the requirement of quarantine, then you can arrive earlier, given 14 days of quarantine estimate. So you may arrive on January 17th. So that's the recommended arrival date if quarantine is required. But please note that the next day, so it's a Monday, January 18th, it's a public holiday, Martin Luther King holiday. So the campus, the university will close. And then after that, without quarantine requirement, then our recommended arrival date is January 24th to 26th. That will be about a week before school starts. So you can, and these are really important for you to arrive early enough, like within these days, because you have a lot of process that you want to take, which we will cover the process after I speak. And the first day of school is February 1st. Then you might ask about, okay, so when do I have to pay? So you do not need to pay right away. You do not need to pay when you arrive or even before you arrive. You do have time to plan to send your money. So the last day of making payment plan is February 12th. So it's the next week, the second week of school. And why we're not, notice that we're not saying it's the last day to pay, but it's the last day to make payment plan. That means you still do not need to pay in full. You do have an option to arrange a payment plan, installment plan, to divide your whole semester's expenses, your tuition and fees in 3 equal installments. So you will start with paying $130, and then the remaining balance will be divided in 3 equal installments. But the last day to make this arrangement, so basically the last day for you to pay $130 will be on this day, February 12th. And then the last day of school, if you want to plan to book your return ticket. So May 6th is the last day of class, but the last day of final exam is on May 13th. So these are the important days for spring semester. And so now we are going to run a poll because you have been informed about some options. So we're going to run a poll to show, so can you guys see the poll now? Okay, so the poll is up now. The first question is, have you been granted a student visa? So your options are yes or no, but I have a visa appointment before January, or no, but I have a visa appointment after or in January. And the last choice is no, I haven't had a visa appointment. So please choose your answer. And because I cannot see the poll results, so if Sam, you when it stops, and would you share the result with us, please?
Yes, you bet. So there's also a second question on this poll that's asking your plans for the upcoming semester. So most likely you will. First option is go to Wichita in spring, take online classes from home, or defer to fall 2021. So this would be if you're planning to move your admission to fall and not take online classes during the upcoming semester. We'll give it just a few more seconds, so make sure you get your answer in. I believe almost everyone has answered. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll. So it looks like, have you been granted a student visa? It looks like about 43% of students said yes. 21% said not yet, but I have a visa appointment before January. 7% said no, but I do have a visa appointment in or after January. And 30% said no, and I haven't had a visa appointment, and that is all perfectly okay. We have lots of options for you all. And so for the second question, which was just asking about your upcoming plans or what you are planning to do if everything goes well, is most likely you will go to Wichita in spring. That was about 82% of you. About 7% said that you're planning to take online classes from home. And then about 11% said that you're planning to defer your admission to fall of 2021. So again, this would be that you're not planning to take online classes and you're not planning to come to Wichita next semester.
Great, thanks, Sam.
You bet.
So next, now that we have seen your plan or we know your options, we're going to talk about what you might do. So if you already have a visa, F1 visa, well, you do have a lot of options. So like some people will say, yes, I'm coming to Wichita State. So this is one way, or even if you have a visa, you can choose not to come right away. You can wait until summer or wait until fall semester to come. And you can take classes from home. That is no problem at all. Even in this fall semester, we have students who are like that. They got their visa, but they decided to stay home and to take classes and come to Wichita in spring. Now, if you do not have a visa yet, your options are, well, obviously staying home, and you do have options between attending classes online or defer. So I see in the chat that many students were asking about that. Yes, you can choose to defer. So here we're going to talk about what you're going to do. So if you want to stay home and you decide to defer, you can defer to summer or you can defer to fall 2021. And if you are an undergraduate student or intensive English only, so what you need to do is to contact international@wichita.edu. So that's how you receive the invitation email today. Or if you are a graduate student, so master's or PhD students, please contact the graduate school. So their email address is wsugradschool@wichita.edu. And work with them to defer your semester to your first semester. Now, if you decide to attend online classes, you do not need a visa. And as Jessa mentioned earlier, you are not required to take a minimum number of classes of credit hours. So just to remind again, if you come here to take classes physically in Wichita State, undergraduate students will require to take 12 credit hours, and graduate students will require to take 9 credit hours. But if you're staying home, there is no minimum requirement. You can just take 3 credit hours, or if you decide to take 9 or 12, that's perfectly okay. But either way, you are required to check in. So we will talk about this process after in a few slides later. And now, if your option is to come to Wichita State, you will still required to check in. And the day of arrival, we have just mentioned, if you want to play safe, you want to arrive earlier, just in case quarantine is required, to arrive on January 17th. And if you expect that no, quarantine is not required, and at this point, quarantine is not required, so January 24th to 26th, that's 1 week before school starts. And if you will be living on campus, arriving earlier. So housing contract officially starts on January 29th. So either way for you, if you arrive 1 week before or you arrive 2 weeks before, you will be required to pay extra for those extra nights. So if you move in just a few days here, housing will charge you $40 per night. And then if you arrive much earlier, so depending on your room type, they have a flat rate anywhere between $342 or $468. But if you live off campus, I should talk about this as well. So if you live on campus, campus housing, upon your arrival and check into your room, they will perform a mandatory COVID testing for you. And so housing will do this for you. But if you live off campus, you already have your own housing plan, or if you haven't, there are some hotel options. So, and the price will be around $30 to $40 per night, or even higher. So housings, they have some connections, or if you need help, you can also email us, and then we can give you some directions about these options. And so here is about the check-in process and enrollment. So Tanya will go through these details with you.
Hello, everybody. My job is to help you get enrolled in classes, and I know there's a lot of questions right now about how to get enrolled and when. So I'll kind of walk you through the process of enrollment, and a lot of it is based on your decision if you will be an online student or plan on coming to the United States. So here by the end of the week, we will send all students a questionnaire. And that questionnaire will allow me to start processing students to determine if they'll be online or coming in person. If you're coming in person, you cannot enroll in classes until you arrive. All new students have an initial attendance I-20. You must be present in the United States to enroll in classes. And you also are mandated by the state of Kansas to have the tuberculosis test prior to enrollment if you will be in the United States. So on this survey, you're going to have 4 options. One will be to defer admission to a new term. One will be you plan on coming to the United States. You can select an online option or cancel my admission. Now, it's very important to make your decision before you fill out the survey. We cannot have students saying they're going to be online and then switching back and forth to different programs. Once you fill the survey, we can make changes if it's an emergency, but really that's kind of locking in your decision. Obviously, if you state you want to come to the United States, but later can't get a visa, we can help you get enrolled online. But for those students stating they're going to be online, you're pretty much locking yourself in because we have to change information in CVIS for your I-20, which affects when you can get your visa for. After you fill in that questionnaire, if you decide that you're going to be an online student, and we can start that process immediately so you can get enrolled. Undergrad and grad students kind of have different steps they need to take, but when you submit the survey, I will outline different testing that you may need and help you meet with an academic advisor. Graduate students are not required to take, for example, like the math and English placement tests, but our undergraduate students are. So I follow up individually with each student, letting them know the next step. If you plan on coming to the United States, some of these steps we can still start with. So our placement testing is all online. So that's something that you can do from your home country. That way, when you arrive, the process will be faster. All processes with the international office and advising are going to be virtual, even if you are in the United States for the spring term. So my check-in process, placement testing, and academic advising are all online. And that can either be over the phone or a Zoom appointment. And then our orientation consists of online modules. Depending on your situation, if you'll be in the United States or out of the United States, the number of modules is different, but that whole process is done online. And that's another thing that we can get started once I know your plans. Are there any questions about that right now? One thing I do want to state is that if you plan on taking all online classes, and then let's say you get a visa in late February, you are not permitted to enter the country early. Your I-20 will be moved to a new term, either summer or fall. So even if you have your visa and you're enrolled fully online, you cannot enter the United States at that time. Yes. I see a question about SAT scores. Yes, in some situations, SAT scores are permitted instead of placement exam. And that's something that I will look at when I get your file and let you know if you need the placement exam or not. Every student is going to have an individualized plan for the most part because every student's academic history is different. So that requires different steps here at WSU. Like I said, by the end of the week, you're going to have that questionnaire. And we will send that out periodically through the rest of the year into January. We do have a Facebook group, a closed Facebook group that everybody will be getting an invitation to join. And then we also listed different communication methods, international at wichita.edu, the grad school, WSU grad school at wichita.edu, and for specific housing questions, housing.wsu at wichita.edu. It's really important for you to reach out to different departments that you have questions with, and we can definitely help you with the answer. But like I said, graduate students for admission inquiries, I included this in the email I sent. They have to process all deferment and things like that. Once you get the survey, if you indicate you want deferment, I will forward that on. But any direct questions about your graduate program really has to go to them. I can assist with the enrollment part, but not the specific program requirements.
So at this point, thank you, Tanya. We have gone through all of the slides that we want to cover and the information that we want to share. And I know that you guys have typed a lot of questions in the chat box. And I know that Sam's trying to kind of organize and bring those questions up.
Yes, so I've got one, and I just answered it in the chat, but I'll go ahead and answer it here as well. So we got a question, for those of us coming from countries where semesters and whatnot work differently, could you please explain the semesters? As an example, when do they start and how many are there per year? Okay, good question. So the spring 2021 semester is going to begin on February 1st this year, which is a little bit later than we usually start. But due to COVID-19, our academic calendar looks just a little bit differently, as Heather was explaining at the beginning. So it will start February 1st and end sometime in May. And if you go to the chat, I put a link there, which is wichita.edu/academic calendar. And that will give you all the start dates, all the end dates for the semesters. There are two main semesters. So we have the spring semester that usually runs from January, February to May, and the fall semester, which runs from about August to December. And then there's also a shorter summer session that you may take classes during as well, but that is not required. So, all right, so another question that we got was, I have secured an F1 visa in October. If I enroll for spring 2021 online, am I going to, so
I can take that one, Sam.
Sorry, Tanya?
I said I can answer that one.
That'd be excellent, thank you.
Yeah. So at WSU, CPT, which is a opportunity to work off campus, is not available until after you've completed 2 full semesters. So even if you're enrolled full time, your CPT must wait after being here 2 full semesters. That's something that our international student advisors can assist with at that time. And you're also asking about other changes to the F1 visa. Obviously right now, things are fluid due to COVID and the policies that we're directed to give. I don't know what future plans may be, but we'll communicate those with students as they develop from our government officials.
Excellent, thank you, Tanya. So we got a question wondering about employment eligibility in Wichita for F1 students. So as Tanya just explained with CPT, that's something that we can, once you get to Wichita, we can talk to you a little bit more about. But international students are eligible to work on campus. You can apply for a job, and then we can help you kind of walk through that process as well. But you are able to work up to 20 hours per week while classes are in session, and then 40 hours per week when classes are not in session.
Sam, I see a lot of questions about placement exams, so I'll just go ahead and give a little more information on that. Some students are asking if transfer credit from within the United States counts. In some situations, yes. Like I said, each student's situation is a little bit different. So when I get your survey, what I look at is if you've taken SAT, have transfer credit, or ACT. Now, a Duolingo, TOEFL, or IELTS does not qualify for any of those exams. So even our American students take these placement exams just to determine what level of academic courses your advisor should put you in. We obviously don't want to put you in a course that's too difficult and set you up to fail. So these tests are just kind of preliminary to let us know where you're at to begin with. But like I said, TOEFL, IELTS, and Duolingo do not count for those exams. So if those are the only exams that you've taken and you have no transfer credit, you definitely will be taking placement exams. And I just want to clarify again, placement exams are only undergraduate students. So our graduate students, you will not be taking any placement exams before enrollment. I think I answered the questions about the placement exams there.
Yes. Tanya, I have another question for you.
Sure.
What date should students arrive if they are planning to come to Wichita?
Okay, so as of now, the state of Kansas does not have a quarantine requirement for our international students. We have to follow the state guidelines, and that can change at any moment. So today there could be no quarantine, and tomorrow there could be. Or come, January 10th, they decide that there is a quarantine. So we're suggesting that students arrive early in case of quarantine, but we obviously cannot mandate that because there's no state mandate. If a mandate is put in place, you would have to be here by January 17th to complete the quarantine period before classes start February 1st. If no quarantine is put in place, then you can arrive later. Like you said, it's hard for you to plan, but we also just don't have that answer yet. If you arrive, let's say January 24th, and a quarantine is put in place, you're going to miss 2 weeks of classes. Now, with the hybrid classes, that may not be an issue because maybe you'll be able to complete the classes via Zoom or however your teacher's method is. But some instructors do have, first day attendance requirements. So it's kind of going to depend on your professors. But that's why we're putting the January 17th date, just to be safe, because we don't know what the future for the quarantine requirement is.
Great. So Tanya, you've also already kind of covered this, but so let's say a student is not able to get a visa appointment until February 7th or a little bit later, or even, closer, let's say February 2nd. What would you recommend that that student do?
So you must be in the United States no later than February 4th. If you cannot be in Wichita, Kansas on February 4th, you either need to make a decision to do online study or defer. Now, remember, classes start February 1st, and we're saying you can arrive February 4th. So even if you arrive February 4th, I would estimate, plan on missing at least a week of class, maybe a little more, just before we can get through the processes. But February 4th is the absolute deadline.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So another question we have is about housing. I need help looking for off-campus housing and like maybe sharing rooms with other students. Can you tell me who I can contact regarding this?
One place might be the Facebook group, but also do we still have on the website a link, and maybe Jessa knows, to some outside the university housing resources? I don't know.
Yes, Tanya, we do. That's actually something I share about housing options in the Facebook group, actually,
Okay.
both for on-campus and off-campus. In terms of contacting people who might need a roommate, we're not allowed to give out students' personal information. So really, it's more you just trying to contact maybe people in the Facebook group or trying to get in contact with an international student organization on campus to see if any of them are looking for roommates, but we cannot personally put you in contact with any specific student.
Great, thank you. And just to reiterate, that Facebook group is a really good resource to join because we'll all be a part of that. So any questions you have later, we can certainly answer there. You can also have the chance to meet other students, connect for housing opportunities, off-campus housing opportunities, and things like that. So that would be a really great thing to join. Okay, can we pay the semester fee early? If so, how early can we pay that? Or when do we need to pay the semester's fees?
So as Phi stated, the actual payment plan due date is February 12th. Students can enroll in classes, can pay their bill early, but until you enroll in classes, we don't know how much you owe. Because as Phi stated, some classes have extra fees, programs have extra fees. So if you don't enroll in classes, then there's an issue of having to do a refund. So just for ease on yourself and the university, I would suggest not paying until you are actually enrolled. Another very important thing is, let's say you get a loan from a bank or an institution like that. Let's say you pay the university $10,000. You make a prepayment, but your bill is only $7,000. They do not issue a refund for that $3,000. They hold it for the next semester. So sometimes students think that they can send a extra payment to the university and they'll give them cash back or refund, and it doesn't work that way. So sometimes we've had students kind of cause themselves problems by making early payments.
I don't know if in some cases students, or in some countries, sending a prepayment or deposit could increase your chance of getting a visa, which we understand. So if you really want to send money ahead of time, you could. But like Tanya said, you do not need to pay a lot more than the estimate. So you can choose to send $6,000, $7,000, or probably $10,000 if you, so that should be your less than your semester's tuition. And in that case, you can send by Flywire, which should be, when you receive your admission package, you should have received also the payment options, Flywire. But if not, feel free to send us an email and then we can send you more information about how to make payment through Flywire.
Excellent. Thank you. So I already put this in the chat, but I just wanted to say that we have just a couple minutes left, so we'll continue answering questions for another minute or two. But any questions that we're not able to answer directly, please email us at international@wichita.edu, and we will respond to your question there as soon as possible. So if you email us today, we should get back to you today. So I've got
there's also a place on the survey to ask specific questions that I don't discuss in the survey. So that's another opportunity.
So a question I've seen a couple of times is there free pickup from the airport this semester, this semester?
For the spring term, we are not going to be able to offer airport pickups just because of the COVID situation in Wichita and the safety of the staff and students at WSU. There are, taxi services and Uber that are still operating, but the university is not doing their shuttle at this time.
Great. And Tanya, maybe one more question that I've still got, so maybe we can just cover this again to make sure that everyone understands. We're getting some questions about how can I get an advising appointment? How can I enroll in classes? So when should students do that or expect to be able to do that?
So once you complete that survey, then I'll help you with those process of getting advising. Now remember, if you state you are coming to the United States, that process cannot be done until you're here. So you'll still want to do the survey and let me know your plans, and I can let you know if there's placement exams or something you can be doing before you arrive. But the actual course selection and enrollment of courses cannot be done until you arrive or until you indicate to me that you will be fully online for your home country.
Yes, and so just to reiterate, that survey is so very important. You should expect that by the end of this week. If you're wondering, what do I do next? What's my next step? Just wait for that survey and fill that out. And based on your responses, whatever your responses may be, we will give you additional instructions. So that will answer a lot of questions that you may have.
Mm-hmm.
So it is now 8 a.m. or 8 a.m. in Wichita anyway. So we're probably going to stop here. Again, if we were not able to address your question, please email us at international@wichita.edu. We usually get to those questions pretty quickly. So if you email us today, you should be able to expect a response very soon. I know there are a lot of things up in the air, so we want to make sure that you email us with any questions that you may have. So thank you all so very much for attending. I hope you all have a great morning, if that's what it is where you are. I hope you have a great evening, a good night, and thanks again for joining us.